Hey everybody, welcome to Top 10 Thursday on the Mana Leak. I'm John as always, and it's time for that special list that everybody waits for. It's the top 10 cards that I was wrong about in the Eldritch Moon set review. I am not always correct. I'm sometimes too generous. I'm sometimes too harsh. I'm not always right about my ratings in the cards, and at the end of each set I go back and I kind of look over what I was most wildly wrong about. I am getting better for sure, because it was kind of hard to find 10 that I was totally wrong about. Tons of them that I was like half a step off. I said C-. It's probably more like a C. But I did come up with this list of 10. Up first at number 10 is Cryptolith Fragment. I originally gave this a C-, and I said I was unsure, but I was ready to be wrong about it, and I think I was kind of wrong about it. I was worried about this, being a little bit sort of mutually assured destruction-y by getting both of your life totals to 10. I felt that you were maybe putting yourself in a slightly bad place where you might just lose the game. But you have a 1/4 death-touching flyer. Your opponent's not going to attack you, and if you build your board state towards this plan, which is a pretty good plan, you're going to be in really, really good shape by the time this thing flips. It's still not an incredible card. It's probably like a C+ or a B-, just not the C- that I originally gave it. So number 10, Cryptolith Fragment. At number 9, we have Enlightened Maniac. I was sort of wrong on this one, but also sort of right. I originally gave it a C-, and I explained how it's virtually a 3/4, but it doesn't attack or block nearly as well as a 3/4 actually does. So I thought it was a little bit worse than that. That being said, it is true, but that 3/2 does attack really, really well, decently aggressively enough. Where I was really right about this card is that I said if you have a reason to play it, if you're in a merge or if you're in a sack deck, it probably gets, a little bit better. Well, it actually gets quite a bit better, and is still playable, not in one of those specific format or archetypes. But yeah, this really shouldn't have been a C-. It's much more like a C+. It's still playable and, solid in the emergent sack decks, so C+, not a C-. Number 9, Enlightened Maniac. At number 8, we have Whispers of Emrakul. A lot of people tend to accuse me of being way too critical on cards. I don't say that everything's amazing, and that's true, because not everything is amazing. But I can sometimes be too generous, like I was here with Whispers of Emrakul. I originally gave this a C. I very, very favorably compared it to Hymn to Turok. And it never, ever can be Hymn to Turok. Off the top of my head, there is no way for you to have Delirium and cast this spell on turn 2. It's not happening. And that's where Hymn to Turok is at its absolute best. The fact that you're probably not going to get to discard 2 cards off of this until turn 5, 6, 7, it's just way too far out there. There's no way that this is a C. It's much more like a D-, maybe even just an F. I've never played this card. I've played against it once or twice, and I've always said, cool. Thanks for wasting your turn, and here goes a card. Whispers of Emrakul, way too generous, number 8. At number 7, we have Long Road Home, another card that I was too generous on. I compared this way too favorably to God's Willing, or more accurately, Feat of Resistance, as a combat trick where you get to, save your creature and also pump them up a little bit permanently. But the beauty of those two cards, God's Willing, Feat of Resistance, is that the creature stays in combat and kills whatever they're blocking or being blocked by. In this, it rips them out of combat, and they come back at the end of the turn. That's nowhere near as good. Nowhere near as good. I originally gave this a B-. That is ridiculously way too high. It's much more like a C-, maybe even lower. I've never played it. I've played against it and felt in no way threatened by it. So, Long Road Home, number 7, more like a C-. Up next at number 6 is Ingenious Scab. I somehow missed that this is just Watercourser, with an upside of having prowess. Watercourser was a solid card, and I somehow gave this a C-. Probably in part due to my never-ending crusade against prowess being an amazing thing. Prowess is fine, and I love when a creature randomly has prowess, and once in a game I get to activate it. But I do continue and will continue to warn people that a card having prowess doesn't make it a full letter grade better. It doesn't even make it really a half letter grade better. But my focus on the prowess really removed me from realizing that this is just Watercourser, and that's a really good card. One of the better blue commons in the entire set. So C- was incorrect. It's much more like a C+, maybe even a B-. Up next at number 5 is Spreading Flames. I really don't like 7 mana and up spells, and this was one that kind of caught my wrath because of that. I gave it a C-. Pretty quickly I decided on C-, and yeah, it is 7 mana, but it can do a ton of work. It's at instant speed at that. I did note that it's really good in sealed, and I did also note that I would keep an eye on it, because if the format was slower, it would get better, and if it was faster, it would get worse. I don't think the format got that much slower than I expected, but it was slow enough that this is a reasonable card if you're in kind of a mid-rangey type deck. If you're in a low-cost aggressive deck, you still don't play Spreading Flames. As good as it can be, your plan is to never be at 7 mana. But if you are in a mid-rangey deck, this card is significantly better. It's much more like a C+, B-, not the C- that I gave it originally. So number 5, Spreading Flames. Up next at number 4 is Faith Unbroken. I had this at a C. I was very hesitant about being opened up to getting blown out by removal. Losing your creature, losing your enchantment, them getting their creature back seemed like a huge blowout, and it is a huge blowout. But I think I really glazed over the +2/+2 way too much. Throwing this on a flyer, taking away their flyer or threat or whatever it is, quickly ends the game. Because you're getting in with your now 3/3 or 4/4 or 5/5 flyer, and they're dead in 2 turns. If they don't have the answer right away, they just lose. And yes, sometimes you will get blown out, but enough times you won't. Because, of course, unless they respond immediately with a Galvanic Bombardment or something, you're basically out of the range of burn with most creatures that you would throw this on, and they're really requiring to have some bounce or something. Faith Unbroken, way more like a B, not the C that I gave it. So number 4, Faith Unbroken. Up next at number 3 is Ruthless Disposal. I started really down on this card at first. I was not happy with it being 5 mana or being sorcery speed. It cost you a card, plus the discard, plus the sacrificed creature, just to kill 2 creatures. And killing 2 creatures is good, don't get me wrong. But I felt like the cost was way too high. And then beyond that, I kind of forgot how you cast a card. When you cast a spell, you name the targets. And then you pay the costs, and there's some other things that you do in there. But I thought that if I wanted to kill 1 creature on my opponent's board, say they only had 1 creature, then I had to sacrifice one of mine and target a different one. But no, you can target the one that you're going to sacrifice, because you target and then pay the costs. So it got a little bit better there. And then it just got better in general. It kills every single thing in the format. Before pumps, I did try to kill a Tree of Perdition once, and my opponent gave it +1/+1, and his tree lived. But beyond that, it kills everything. It kills Emrakul, it kills everything. Yeah, you have to jump through a lot of hoops. Yeah, you have to pay some costs for this, but it's 100% worth it, and first pickable, way more like a B, not the C- that I gave it. I was way too cautious on this card. So number 3, Ruthless Disposal. Up next at number 2 is Fortune's Favor. I didn't like giving your opponent the choice here. And yeah, I started way too down on this. I gave it a D. I figured this is like Fact or Fiction or the other cards that are similar to this that have been really terrible. Steam Augury, whatever it was called back in Return to Ravnica or wherever that came out. Not Steam Augury. You'll tell me in the comments down below. Probably Steam Augury. Yeah, I gave this a D. I liked the mechanic. I thought it was a cool design and cool card, but I thought it was just going to be terrible. But it turns out, especially being at instant speed, you're just going to draw 2 cards. At worst, you're going to get, probably 1 playable card and 1 unplayable card. And unless your opponent just like next levels you, you're going to get something. I have blown out 1 person on this by giving them 2 good cards face up and 2 lands face down. They went for the lands and weren't happy with it. But that's really hard to pull off. Generally, you take the known quantity if it's good enough. Yeah, this is much more like a C, maybe even a C+. It's not the D that I gave it. It's still not incredible, but it's better than I thought. So number 2, Fortune's Favor. Finally, at number 1, we have Foul Emissary. I was not sold on this guy. I had him at a D for most decks, and a C+ if you're in the Emerge deck. If the Emerge deck was going to be a thing, if it was going to be a good thing, is what I had decided on at the beginning. Well, it turns out it was very much a good thing. One of, if not the best format or archetypes in the entire format. Yeah, I assumed that this would be a later pick. I assumed that once you were in the Emerge deck, then you would take this guy, and that you could probably get him pretty late in the pack. No. He's a first pick card. You take this card and force into the Emerge deck. You take this card, first pick, second pick, and you're very happy with it. Absolute all-star in that deck. It's way more like a B, not the C minus, or sorry, C plus that I gave it originally in the Emerge deck, or the D at all that I gave it in every other deck. In every other deck, it's still fine. It's obviously nowhere near as good, but it's still fine. It gets you a creature, totally fine. So number one, the card I was most wrong about, Foul Emissary. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for the top 10 cards that I was wrong about in the Eldritch Moon set review. Let me know what cards really changed for you. What cards were you way too high or way too low on when you first saw the set and then turned out to be totally different? Let me know in the comments down below. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at TheManaLeak. That's L-E-E-K, like the vegetable, not the card. You can also find me at Facebook.com/TheManaLeak and Twitch.tv/TheManaLeak. You've already found me here on YouTube. You've got that comment section down below. Please make use of it. Click that thumbs up icon if you like the content. Click subscribe if you want to see more. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, see you all next time.